Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this beautiful Saturday morning, which is also the National Day of Malaysia. Today is actually a danger day, but the rating of Tongkong is very good. It's an auspicious day. Therefore, I have already put in quite a number of manifestation dates and time in my Telegram channel. For those of you, I think from my Telegram channel, you can already see it yesterday night, which I put it in. So make use of today's energy. It's really that we have very good danger day for you to do some activities for you to get problem solved in a danger day as well. And is for all Malaysians that call in, I would like to wish you all a happy Independence Day, and we hope our progress and unity will bring our country to the next level. And definitely, this is the first year of period 9. I can assure you that from the reading of the forecast of Malaysia, if you check out my YouTube channel, we are going to grow in leaps and bounds in period 9. The energy is with us. So in today's theme for this month, the forecast for September 2024 is also aligned to the progress. It's also the word progress as well. So it's a month of gradual progress. So we shall see gradual progress to what in the next few slides, according to the astrology forecast. And later on, PC will share his forecast on progress of the global trends towards which direction. Okay, so every crisis, there is an opportunity, as we said. Yeah, let's me go through the top agenda for this morning. We start with the introduction, which I've already done. We go through the disclaimer and then the brief recap of last month's forecast. We always do a recap to check on how accurate our forecast is. Normally, we can achieve about 80% accuracy in our forecast. We always reverse back one to ensure that we get things correct. Even things that we do not get it correct because we are still human, we also said we are very honest. Then influence of five elements energy in September 2024 and September 2024 geopolitical and financial forecast in Global Trends Research by PC. And we will wrap up with a summary. So the disclaimer, let's go through the disclaimer first. The content here is purely based on what our study in global trends related to five elements in Chinese astrology for you to use as a guideline in your investment decision. I would like to again caution everyone in investment, especially in such volatile situation. Do your own research on the company that you want to invest. And another thing, also, if there is an investment that comes to you which is too good to be true, you need to watch out. Okay, because nowadays there is a lot of scammer. Only invest with those very clear mainstream platform, such as the stock market, the stock exchange, that stocks are publicly listed. Okay, those startup, you will need to exercise caution. If you are still unsure, you can always consult me. I can do a forecast for you, whether it will be a profitable investment or not. Okay. Then next one, no stock advice will be given. Additional support. We will give additional support through email address that we have given to our members in the Telegram group because this platform is open for public and also for our members. Of course, member will have more perks. They will have a dedicated Telegram group for them, for us to discuss about the global trends that happening that happens in between because this meeting is only 1 month. Okay. And also they will receive, a full recording of this current presentation of the monthly forecast. And also, they will also receive the slides. Sometimes they could not go through all the recording that is about 2 hours because we are very generous. We always give a lot of contents, especially PC. He really do do a lot of research, and he give out a lot of content. So you can find that in the slides as well. For those that are new join, likes our work, then consider joining us next year. We will open for membership next month. Those who are new to us, I see new people that join. Maybe some has joined once in a while. So let us go through to understand who we are first. Both PC and I are very much interested in global trends. We do a lot of research. My research is more towards Chinese astrology on how it impacts the global trends, and I use the five energy elements and also other methods, okay, to forecast on the month, on the year's energy. We have already done this for the past 2-3 years. This is our 27th episode already. We started back in 2022. Okay, so our forecast is also aligned to planetary energy field, which is astrology, what it says, and also the trends research that PC has been putting in a lot of work into researching, and PC is also an investment guru, and we achieve high accuracy to help our members to make a profitable investment, because your opportunity in investment are very closely related to the global trends. What are the elements that are prosperous? And our way of doing it is going through, because I'm from procurement, supply chain background, and engineering background. So our way is to look at the whole supply chain and look at the elemental energy, which is prosperous. We unlike most of the investment guru, they will just go through the stock markets. We don't do that, but we go upstream the supply chain, because even Intel, or you invest in Intel, even you invest in Nvidia, all these, all their chips, they need raw materials. So we look at it from that perspective, which is really an untapped opportunity. And only people that has gone through supply chain and also, have in-depth research on this area on mining, the geopolitical, and the mining aspect, how to, going up the supply chain, then only we can discover this type of opportunity. Okay. And so far, I think we have been very successful. Some of the things that we recommend has gone up 2-3 times, right, PC?
Perhaps maybe double some of them.
Yeah, double already.
Slightly more than double also
Yeah,
have.
some is triple also. Yeah, some go up triple, but they go down again. But at least they sustain. They go up to triple, and that means the multi-bagger that we have identified. Okay. And we also align this energy all to period 9, because both of us write a book on period 9. The first 5 years, I have done an in-depth research on period 9, especially from the global trends perspective. So this unlock your wealth potential, which is available in Shopee, Lazada, and we have about more than 13 5-star reviews.
18. Now it's
18.
18.
Yes, we have
Yeah.
18 5-star reviews thanks to
On
our
Shopee.
readers. Yes, I know most of it are from our readers, from my supporter, okay, and also from our members. Thank you very much for your great review. Okay, so this is really a gem for you to pivot in the next 5 years in your financial wealth success related to investment. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, in our book, we highlight also the US will face a crisis in its semiconductor industry because of the sanction in China. We predicted that, and right now Intel is one of the casualties. We also predicted that China would have the low altitude economy, and flying taxis would be the trend. Just this year, China announced the new low altitude economy that will uh, give opportunity to a lot of UAVs and flying taxis and flying cars. So there's a lot of things that we have written there. We talk about AI, how AI will continue to increase in importance. So it's a book that is worthy of reading. For those who haven't read it, do go to Shopee and buy your copy. We we not only talk about the US and China, we have some insight into why we think Southeast Asia is also
It's good.
going to do quite well.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things inside. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm busy. After, so you can drop a link here where to get the book.
Yeah.
Actually, there are two ways you can get the book. One is through Shopee, Lazada, the physical book that you can buy from our publisher, or you can buy ebook, which we also self-publish. It's in Google Book. I make it available in Google Book already, or later on maybe it will be in Apple Book as well. So we will drop the link later on for you to check where can you get the book. Okay, so we wrote the book actually in last year, beginning of last year. So everything that we predicted, slowly, it has already manifested. Okay, and we also predicted sort of, US currency will be, going downward trend, and now I think it is towards that direction already. So let's recap on last month what happened in August 2024. So August 2024 was a Renshen month. It's a water monkey month. That means water is very is is a lot. That means the water energy is very prominent in the September chart. So whenever we see water, means that water is actually um quite dangerous. Because sometimes you hide a lot of things. Those that actually born in water, day masters, those who knows Chinese metaphysics, water people normally they hide a lot of things. One, it's the same thing. Okay, so they hide dangers as well. They hide good things like pearls and treasures in the sea. Excuse me. And also, we also look at the hexagram. The hexagram itself is actually Earth. If you look at this, let me annotate. If you look at this, hexagram is actually made up of two trigrams. This is for those who know very well. This is Kun. Kun is Earth, but it's an unstable, it's a soft Earth. And this is water. So in September, what you see most? Anyone? Especially in Kuala Lumpur, there's one very big incident. Okay, it's Earth over water. Yeah, that's right. Mitra, thank you. Okay. So, and also, besides that, this is just the news that becomes very prominent. It's not only in KL, but in other places as well. And we look at also job, job political stability and defense. I have already stated that um, September month will not be a month of conflict. The action does not happen yet, but the preparation of the action happens. You can see that, later on I will show you the news, and actually we already discussed it in our member space as well. And then economic volatility is expected, the preparation for it, and also technological advancements and environmental challenges that we have predicted. We have single problem, right? Isn't it earth over water? When I saw this, I was quite startled also. Okay. By the image of the hexagram that represents the going on of this month. So we see the sinkhole that is happening. And also there are more sinkhole news around the world. In Palm Springs, US, in Derbyshire, England, I think in Korea. So there's one member that shared with me when I put the post in Facebook. He told me that in Korea, South Korea, there are sinkhole that swallow a car and two people got injured, but luckily no casualty. But I'm really sorry, and my heart goes out to the Indian women that that has gone into the sinkhole. Okay, I still pray that they manage to at least recover her. I hope miracles can happen. Okay, and next is that we see also tensions in the Philippines water. There's only tension, no real action of fighting, no firing of missiles yet. So it's preparation. That Philippines is a stronghold of US military base, right? And then Philippines South China Sea, there's a cluster of island that belongs to China, right? So this is where, the stirring pot begin. Okay. And also in Middle East, we can see that US starts to deploy carriers to Middle East. Right, BC?
Yeah.
Uh,
But it is a game of uh high level chess because a lot of the prediction that US is anticipating Iran to attack, like they have been issuing warning next 72 hours, I think for the third time, but Iran has not even started any attack yet. But I think uh it's a good way to wear out the patience because every day to maintain an entire US carrier fleet is about more than 100 million. Okay, it costs 100 million to maintain a carrier fleet in full operational mode for one day. So imagine that it is already almost a month. That is $3 billion spent already, for just maintaining the force there. So this is a slow cash burn, which I think could be one of the strategy.
mm, yeah, that's right. Okay, so no action. And also, we talk about the US market outlook, right? That some of the things that the economic there is mixed economic signals per what the energy pattern has tell us as well. Okay. And let's go through the much anticipated month of September 2024's energy in the five elements re- relating to the birth charts and what it brings to us. Okay, what it means, what it could manifest into. Okay, so we have wood and earth energy also reduce with the combination. Actually, the rooster and the um, dragon is a combination. Okay, so both of them combine very reduce. Wood is actually the officer of the month. That means it represents like government authority. Okay, the government's authority is depleting. It's no surprise because there are many changes. As we said earlier this year, there are more than half of the nation, I think over 70 nations around the world that will change government this year, which happens to be the first year of period 9. And definitely the authority will be weakened during this transformation time, especially in the autumn season. We are now already in the autumn. We are in you is actually the mid autumn already. That's why you is also always the month of the mid autumn festival. Although it does not, it correlates with the solar calendar. We follow the solar calendar for the five elements, but we follow the lunar calendar for all this Chinese New Year and all this festival because lunar calendar is meant for more of worshiping the Chinese culture. Okay. Yeah. So there's high possibility from what I look at the chart, there could be a high possibility of increase in precious metal price still. Okay. It's not for you to speculate. This is from just the energy we read. Okay. Then potential conflict will be escalating in Middle East. This one also shown in the Tai Sensu chart. I think it's chart number 58, if I'm not mistaken. That is in the month of Yu, where there is a lot of facing conflict each other, okay, opposite to each other. So when charts like this, there will be conflicts. Then the 7K in the chart is actually very strong. This is actually, I look at it from the chart of the 24 solar terms. I also check 24 solar terms chart as well, where there is officer, metal is an officer in the chart itself, okay, for the 24 solar terms. And also, Geng is also there. So there is, Geng is the 7K because the 24 solar terms that Jia is the day masters. This is not related to the Li Chun chart. After Li Chun chart, there is solar terms. There are 24. Okay, 24 solar terms every month. Every 2 weeks we will change one solar terms. Okay, so this is where the 7K is very strong. When 7K is very strong, it means that maybe a violent event could also happen. Okay, and the officer will fails to suppress this the authority. I think this is also what is happening around the world. Okay, so let's look at the hexagram of the month itself.
If you find this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more valuable insights and updates. By subscribing, you will be the first to know when I post new content.
Okay, the hexagram of the month itself is actually winner. You look at this, let's go through this again. Okay, so you go through this, this is actually a winner. That means wind of change, the wind that is blowing over a mountain. Okay, this is the wind blowing to the mountain. That means slow, there are gradual progress because wind is blowing over the mountain. So maybe the economies will experience a slow but slightly steady growth, technological advancement that will focus on more long-term integration, and also political change could occur incrementally as policies and reforms are being implemented by some of the new leaders of the world, and gradual progress also towards military conflicts, especially in the east that we know of, and also in the west, and also potential of the inflation slow down these few months. So there will be some gradual inflation again. Okay.
Actually, the inflation has a lot to do with manipulation.
Mm,
Especially the ECB and the Fed, they are already seeing deteriorating consumer spending. They are already seeing crisis in their commercial real estate, as well as now emerging is a housing crisis, which I will share some charts afterwards. And because of that, they have to find a reason to cut the interest rate. So that is why they are actually jointly manipulating the inflation down so that they can start to loosen monetary policy to get the economy kicking again. And nowadays is how they try to influence the perception of the public towards a lot of economic indicators, okay, by managing it and massaging the figures to the expectations so that they can actually do the rate cut. So it's just like the non-farm payrolls, okay, for the since greater part of last year until now, it has been always beating the payroll projection, but just this month, they review from March 23rd to uh, March 23, year 23 to March 24 this year. They actually cut down the number of jobs by 818,000. So, and even the retail sales that they always announce a bit and all those, out out of the 12 months of retail sales, if I'm not wrong, they have actually revised down by about 10 of the months, something like that. So it is constantly being because what is important is the headline. The market move on the headline. What happens subsequently after the headline, any adjustment, people don't care already. So this is how the statistics is being manipulated.
okay, so that means inflation is still there hidden, right,
Yes.
in
For
the
those who
water.
want to have yeah, for those who want to really know the status of inflation, especially in the US, because it drives the Fed policy, which influence the global financial market. Have a look at shadowstats.com by John Williams. He uses the same criteria to measure inflation like the 1990s without changing the goalpost. And since that time, inflation has only increased. And if using the same metrics, inflation now is still above 10%. But the Fed actually has inflation that is, 3%, mainly because a lot of things is being uh, manipulated. Okay. One of the key thing, for example, like if like the measurement for sirloin steak is this amount, but sirloin steak have actually appreciated. So what they do, they use the cheaper beef fillet as a gauge. So they keep on downgrading the type of
Quality.
goods used, quality, to show that inflation is actually down. Like for example, like cars, the price has gone up so much, but then they do not really take into consideration that the car price have gone up so much. What they did was they used the excuse that cars now have better environment, they have better, more function, and therefore the increase in price is actually for the function. So that also is, is shelved aside. And another thing is that they no longer consider property price as part of the inflation. They use rent as a inflation gauge. So you can see that is why it's all manipulated down. Okay. Interestingly, someone from the US used back a receipt which he had kept at from his purchase in Walmart 10 years ago. Okay, he bought the same stuff of goods in the in Walmart, but the inflation over the 10 years is 300 over percent
Wow.
based on the actual price of the goods that he bought. The difference is 300% just over a period of 10 years, same type of products. And another thing which they never count into the inflation gauge is that I think all of us are experiencing now is something called shrinkflation. Same price or slightly higher price, okay, maybe a few percentage increase in price, but then the the quantity inside is reduced by 20 or 30%. Okay. For those who don't believe me, you buy the tube of Pringles, you will realize that last time the Pringles is at the top. Right now you need to dip your fingertips inside to get the first piece.
Okay. Any Pringles eater or
Yeah.
not? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it will be smaller pieces also. Okay. Yeah. So we have like okay, in September, is also another interesting month, but it will be more on lunar eclipse that happening also in US. I think the next eclipse of the sun on October 2nd is also happening in US. Okay, so it seems that this year a lot of major eclipse that happens in US. So whenever there's eclipse, it's not a very good sign. Okay, in terms of many cultures. Okay, in terms of astrological energy, because the light has been blocked, the energy of the planet has been blocked. Like the sun, the light has been blocked, right? Sun, if you look at the light is energy, right? E equals to mc square, right? Everyone agree? Um, that E equals to mc square scientifically. So the light has been blocked. So naturally, the energy, has the energy pattern has been disrupted. So in the ancient days, lunar eclipse actually is related more to the people. Okay, more to the rakyat in in terms of in Malaysia, I would call it rakyat. It's more related to people, to economic, and also to the current, the social, the society itself. For lunar eclipse, they govern this aspect. Okay, so whenever there is a partial eclipse happening, it could also have an impact on the people. It could be like inflation that's happening that currently just now PC has given us a very true picture to reflect the inflation which is hidden in the water, and also the happenings of people that are not very happy with the government. Okay, and also some of the people that could, there are also job losses that around the globes that people are seeing. So this is more to the people, whereas sun it governs the ruler, okay, the emperor, because sun is the emperor of the sky, ma. Okay, so whatever that is the eclipse, so it will impact the emperor. Of course, when it impact the emperor indirectly, it will also impact us, because you realize that the lunar and the solar eclipse, they always happen in a pair. Okay, I think normally it's about okay, lunar eclipse. Oh, this one is 中秋节 is mid autumn lunar eclipse always happen during the full moon. Okay, and after 2 weeks later, the solar eclipse will happen. Okay, so I think over to you, PC. Let's check what is the global trend research, and if it aligns to what I am seeing in my astrology forecast. You wanted to share screen?
Okay.
Okay.
Evelyn mentioned we often check back what we predicted. So our prediction on China retail sales was that it will grow much higher. Retail sales did actually continue to grow as we expected, but we were half right in that sense. We expect that because the Chinese government is putting in a lot of incentives, to get the people to spend. Uh, uh, but in the retail sales in the month of July only went up. Hold on,
PC, maybe
need to.
you need to do some changes, is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm trying to
Okay.
locate my browser. Okay, never mind. Some typo error.
Never mind. You correct it later.
Yeah. So, but retail sales only gained 2.7% year on year in July. Okay, versus our expectation being at 4 to 5% region, because the amount of subsidy that the Chinese government gave out was actually very huge. But maybe it will take time for it to show. But actually, the retail sales did increase versus June, okay, but not to the extent that we expected, closer to 4 to 5%. And in terms of geopolitics, at that time, we expected that the more countries will enter into the BRICS this year. But a recent interview, the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov said that there won't be any new members being included in the BRICS this year, as the priority is to coordinate and normalize the mechanics with regard to the trade among the existing group of nations. So come October, there's going to be a launch of the BRICS unit, which is going to be 40% backed by gold. And that unit will be used as a trade settlement unit, okay, which means that there will still be ongoing bilateral trade using local currencies, okay? But what happened is that if, let's say, there's any surpluses or deficit, then if there's any need for settlement, okay, then the unit will be used as a trade settlement currency. Okay, whereas I don't see it as the unit being aggressively used, because they are using local currencies. So at any one point in time that they want to settle the trade between the two countries, okay, for example, maybe year end or quarterly, so that the the balances or the reporting, or even month end, okay, the government make the announcement whether it's surpluses and all those, it will then be a settlement. But normal daily trade, I think it will still be the local currencies. So because the new addition of members create an extra burden on the new development bank, which is the BRICS bank, and I believe that in consultation with the members, they decided that since all these new members need to follow the mBridge platform that is going to settle the BRICS trade settlements, would actually require them to coordinate well and normalize the flow of operations and mechanics before it's being are ready to incorporate more members. But I believe that because there's so many interests to join, I think they will have a platform where they will opt in, not official members, but opt-in partners, okay, that will actually do bilateral trade in local currencies. So where we got right now, in the US, we always highlight that the crisis in the US has a lot to do with the unrealized losses, okay, and also because of the ongoing CRE crisis. CRE stands for commercial real estate. Now, half a year ago, when we talked about the CRE crisis, we were saying that commercial buildings are being sold at a discount of 40 to 60%. Right now, commercial buildings are being sold at 80 to 90%, okay? And some is even given free because those companies, they just want to get out of that debt, okay? So, and this is one of the reasons why the Fed is hard pressed to cut interest rate. Now, if we look at it, these are the unrealized gains and losses on investment of securities. Now, what do the US banks normally do? There are only two major assets that they hold. Okay, one is the loan portfolio, and the other is the investment in US treasuries, okay, or US bonds. So what happened when the Fed keep on increasing interest rates over the past year? It results in the bond prices falling and pushing the yields higher. Okay, because the Fed is no longer buying bonds. So a lot of the banks invested in the bonds where the Fed was the major purchaser of US bonds. Now that the Fed is selling US bonds and hiking interest rate, and because of the US ongoing inflation, the yields just keep on going higher. Okay, because the 10-year treasury yield is like a default of the inflation outlook over the next 10 years. So because of all these factors churning out, okay, the higher the yield, the lower the bond price. And because banks have purchased the US bonds, they now see tremendous losses. Okay, now the thing is that why do banks still report profit? Because no banks actually have a practice of marking the securities to market. Okay, and these are actually put under a spreadsheet called unrealized losses, because if they didn't sell, then they didn't lose. Okay, so that is how these unrealized losses keep on accumulating. Now, if we compare what were the unrealized loss during the global financial crisis, this is the amount. But if you look at this amount versus this amount, we are many multiple times worse off than the previous GFC. So that is what caused the Fed to panic, okay? And that is why the Fed need to cut interest rate, because the moment they cut interest rate, okay, the bond yields will actually come down accordingly. And how to show that, to force the bond yields to come, is to say that inflation is coming down, okay? Because the 10-year treasury is a default of the inflation projection over the next 10 years. So if they say inflation is low, the bond yields come down, then the Fed say that, oh, now we can start cutting interest rates. So the moment that they cut interest rate, okay, the bond value will actually go up, and therefore these losses will start to shrink. But besides the CRE crisis and also the unrealized losses from securities investment, the banks in the US are facing another problem, that is credit default. Because the entire US economy is driven by debt, including consumer debt, which fund the retail purchases. So in the last month, okay, when they announced the in last month, when the banks announced their Q2 results, very interestingly, Bank of America increased provision for credit losses from 1.3 billion in Q1 to 1.5 billion in Q2. And JP Morgan increased provision for credit losses from 1.88 billion in Q1 to 3.05 billion in Q2. So you remember, for members who have who have actually been on board this program, we have already mentioned, few months back that a lot of corporations are encouraging consumers to buy now, pay later. Okay, they have not been paid, but because they've been bought, so a lot of retailers announce, wow, our sales have increased. Okay, so then the market pushed the retail stocks higher. But right now, a lot of the consumer are defaulting, and the retailers who have actually encouraged that policy right now are cutting back on the buy now, pay later, because they don't get paid eventually. So that is also a reason why we see a deterioration in retail stocks. Okay, for those who follow the US market, you can see that a lot of big brands are actually seeing a downtrend, okay, in their stock prices, which we will include in our coming book for next year. Now, the other thing is that the credit card loans delinquency rate from banks just hit a high of 3.5% in Q2, up from 2.77% a year ago. And this is the highest since Q4 2011. Okay, so this was during the financial crisis. Right now, delinquency rate on credit card loans, this is all banks, yeah, have moved up. Now, if we narrow it down to the small banks, the percentage is even more terrifying. And you can look back to our video on YouTube for the month of August or July, if I'm not wrong, where we highlighted that the small banks are facing tremendous delinquency rate, okay, from credit card loans, even much higher than the period during the global financial crisis. Now, that are the small banks, but this is all the banks, okay, including the big banks. And right now, it has moved up to here. And if, let's say, it continue to move up, then we are in a danger zone. Also, another reason why the Fed wants to push the interest rate cut so that it lower the credit card debt, lower corporate debt, and so forth. Another thing is more houses are being put on sale. Okay, the chart below, as of August 2024, you can see that housing inventory acting listing count has been steadily going up. And according to Zillow, as of 31st July, additional of 216,000 houses have been put on sale since the end of Q4 2023. So why are the people selling their homes? Because they are facing tremendous pressure of owning a home. Now, one of the key things that the Fed didn't show the increase, okay, in the CPI reading was that the insurance have actually gone up very, very steeply, okay? And some people actually say that the house insurance rise, okay, inflation is much higher than what the Fed put in their CPI. And not only that, because a lot of the local governments, individual state governments, they, especially the democratic one, the liberal governments, they are subsidizing an influx of immigrants into their cities. So what happened was that these immigrants create a lot of havoc, okay? And some states like California have a rule that if anyone steals less than $950, it will count as petty theft and will not be charged, okay? And then what we have is organized groups keep on ransacking stores, so much so that San Francisco, LA is seeing a lot of closures in retail stores because their shops are constantly being ransacked because of the $950 rule. And this has caused a lot of the crisis in those towns. And because all the retailers have moved out, the government has lower taxes, because when you open restaurant, that's the service tax. When you buy things, that's the sales tax. So, and when retailers they close, they also don't pay corporate tax. So because the revenue from the local government has shrunk, what they did was they raised the property tax. So in the US, they are, it's just like here we call the quit rent. Okay, it's a constant uh property tax that is taxed based on the value. And because the value of US homes have skyrocketed, then the tax equivalent has also skyrocketed. So these homeowners, they have been, working uh, a lot of jobs, multiple part-time jobs to continue the livelihood, but the external pressure, okay, of credit card debt and also rising cost of maintaining a home, and also to pay for the insurance have become a problem. Now, I read reports where some insurance company are so unscrupulous. What they did was they sent drones, because nowadays drones can take aerial view. Okay, they send drones out to the property which is insured, take a photograph, and then they hike the premium to the house, to the homeowner. Why? They say that your roof is not clean. Okay. Previously, when you buy the house, your roof is clean. Right now, the home value actually dropped because your roof is not clean. Okay. And then they hike the insurance premium. Or a landowner, okay, in his farm, but previously he bought the land, he insured it, okay, it's grassland. Right now he has made use of the land. They say that he has destroyed the land value. Again, hike the insurance premium. So this is causing a lot of distress, okay, because the corporation in US has become very cutthroat in that sense. And if you follow Twitter of those people who face this, you can really sympathize with them. Okay, because government out of revenue, they hike taxes. Okay, insurance premium looking for additional gains in revenue, also hike insurance premium. And that's why some people decided that it might as well don't maintain a home, okay, because of all this external pressure. And therefore, more homes are being put on sale. The other thing is that even as more homes, we call these existing homes, are put on sale, you can see that the existing home sales have actually collapsed, okay, from the peak here. So when there's no interested party who wants to buy existing homes, so what do those people who are desperate will be looking at? They'll be looking at offering discounts. Okay, and here the median sales price of houses sold in the US has fallen from its peak of 442.6 thousand, okay, in Q4 2022 to 412.3K in Q2 2024. Now, this is equivalent to a 6.8% decline in price. Okay, and more will follow because certain states which actually have a massive build up, like Florida and Texas, in the Miami area and in the Houston area right now, are seeing more listing as homes are put on sale. So the more homeowners are competing among themselves to sell homes, they'll be hard pressed to offer discount. So when one person offers discount, the other will offer cheaper, and we soon have is that a lot of people will be competing for buyers. And the buyer sentiment for homes in the US have just collapsed to a new low. So we also warned that August could see some volatility, and true enough, the S&P fell from 5,522 on 31st July to 5,186 on 5th of August due to the yen carry trade, which we also warned about. Only the assurance by the BOJ that it would not hike interest rate further helped provide relief and push the S&P index back to 5,626 as of 28 August. Now, this is what we see from the headline, okay? Underneath, there were actually a lot of inter-central banks plumbing, okay, behind the scenes. So what happened was that you can see that the yen carry trade stabilized very fast, okay, just over within a week. But Deutsche Bank actually mentioned that there is $20 trillion of the yen carry trade in the market. And we are not talking about other types of market, okay, like those in the derivative market and so on and so forth, or the OTC market. So 20 trillion, and to say that it's all being unwound in just in just a week cannot be. So definitely a lot of central banks were working behind the scenes to plug. It's just like what we call central bank plumbing is like, when there's a pipe burst, a lot of liquidity has escaped. Okay. So everyone see that is going to be a major problem. So what they do next is everyone work hand in hand, okay, to prevent that leakage. And a lot of all these are off balance sheets transaction, okay, it's never reported. Just like during the global financial crisis, the officially the US say we spent X trillion of dollars, okay, but much later on they realized that all the central banks work together to pump in about tens of trillions, okay, to stabilize the global financial markets. But we won't know immediately until many years later when, these are being revealed. So another thing that the US core CPI remains stubbornly high at 3.2% year on year in July. We mentioned that the core CPI will be quite difficult to go below 3% because material costs have been rising, okay? So retail sales remain in negative territory at real retail sales remain in negative territory at negative 0.2% year on year in July. The US retail sales, even though grew by 2.7%, its CPI was 2.9%. So that is a real retail sales being in negative. And leading economic indicators remain in negative territory, I think, for almost 2 years, if I'm not wrong. And in Europe, US industrial production remained in negative territory. Okay, it is down 3.2% as of June 2024. Germany business confidence index fell to 86.6 in August. So this goes to show that the deindustrialization of Germany, which we mentioned in our book, Unlock Your Wealth Potential, back in 2023, we already say that it will continue because of the poor governance in Germany and the fabrication of a lot of political driven statement, okay, that will only push investment overseas. Okay, for example, Germany major market for automobiles is actually in China. When the government is so anti-China, okay, the German car manufacturers are very concerned about their prospects. So what they do is must well invest in China because that's where the market is. But whatever that Germany is doing, okay, will be detrimental, okay, against Chinese companies. So they are very afraid of retaliation. So a lot of them actually shifted overseas. And the other thing is that the German energy policy, which have actually made energy costs increase much higher. Okay, whereas previously the German industry actually have cheap gas from Russia. Right now, they still get cheap gas in Russia, but then it's through different parties, which will then be much higher. And also LNG from US, which is multiple times higher than the LNG from Russia. So because of the German's policy, a lot of industries decide to shift out as well. So that is why Germany's industrialization, okay, will continue to fall. And therefore, because previously Germany was actually the torchbearer of the entire EU, we will see, the EU getting weaker in terms of economy. And because of their liberal policy to encourage mass migration, we can see that a lot of cities in Europe are now under siege. And we also predicted political turmoil in France. Okay, Le Monde's publication on 27 August, warning that France unprecedented and dangerous political situation. Because even though another party won, but then Macron is still the leader of the country. So right now, there's a lot of political uncertainties. Now, in China, industrial production grew as expected. Real estate market remains sluggish as forecasted. NEV penetration in Chinese auto market is now above 50% as of July 2024. We mentioned that the introduction of the NEVs will actually gradually push the ICE, or internal combustion engine vehicles, which thrive on petrol, okay, off the market at a quicker pace. And in geopolitics, we predicted wider conflict between Israel and Lebanon, and right now is unfolding before our eyes, and no peaceful resolution between Ukraine and Russia, as expected and made worse by Ukraine's attack on Kursk. Now let's look at the US economic indicators. CPI rose 0.2% month-on-month in July. Year-on-year, it grew 2.9%, down from 3% in June. Core CPI rose 0. I think I forgot to put a figure here. If I'm not wrong, it's 0.2. Okay, sometimes I type too fast. Okay, so it could be 0.2 or 0.3. I'll correct that later. Month-on-month in July, and year-on-year, it grew 3.2%, down from 3.3%. PPI rose 0.1% month-on-month in July. Year-on-year, again 2.2%, down from 3% in May. Now, retail sales rose 1% in July, month-on-month. Year-on-year, it gained 2.7%. Net retail sales, less CPI, was 0.2% negative. Industrial production fell 0.6% in July. Year-on-year, it fell 0.2%. And the HB index came in at 39 in August, down from 41 in July. Now, anything below 50 is considered a contraction. For those who are unaware, NAHB stands for National Association of Home Builders, which actually give their forecast on the confidence level of the US real estate market. Housing starts tumbled 6.8% month-on-month in July, while housing permits fell 4% month-on-month. Existing home sales rose 1.3% month-on-month in July. Year-on-year, it fell negative 2.5%. New home sales saw 10.6% month-on-month in July. Year-on-year, it rose 5.6%. So here we have a situation where new home sales rose, mainly because people are buying because of the cheaper mortgage. Now, the mortgage rate has fallen from more than 7% to right now slightly more than 6%. So obviously that 1.1% did make some difference. And on top of that, because a lot of the home builders are facing soaring inventories, they are also offering discounts to encourage more purchases. And August preliminary PMI for manufacturing came in at 48, while PMI for services came in at 55.2. Now, I think the main thing about the whole month of August was what happened with the Jackson Hole meeting, which will dictate the policy over the next few months. So according to Powell, my confidence have grown that inflation is on the path to 2%. Okay, now my take, lower inflation is almost a certainty, manipulated or otherwise, to hurry a rate cut because of the unsustainable interest payment on debt, which has reached 1.089 trillion at the end of Q2 2024. So this is the annual debt that is being paid. Okay, and Just now I mentioned that a lot of corporations are in trouble, banks are in trouble. So another big corporation that's in trouble is the US government. Okay, corporate bankruptcies have been rising while household debt has reached a new record high at 17.8 trillion. And Powell say the time has come for policy to adjust, and this opens the pathway to a rate cut in September. Powell said the timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data. So it is already foretelling, okay, that they are going to push for a rate cut because the downward revision of the jobs growth in the US from March 2023 to March 2024 is 818 jobs being revised down. And this is the data that the Fed needs because unemployment rate has risen to 4.3% in July. Now, the Fed two objective, okay, that the Fed has been set up was to ensure stable prices and ensure stable employment. Okay, but we see that they have failed at stable prices. Okay, right now the only thing that can keep the Fed being a central bank is that not to allow employment to falter. Okay, and that is why I think it's all done in coordination, that the jobs data revision was revealed before the Jackson Hole meeting. Okay, so that the Fed is telling the world that the Fed needs to cut. And that is my opinion. Okay, and Powell say we don't seek or welcome further labor market cooling. Again, reinforcing what he mentioned, okay, about needing the data to prove that the labor market is cooling. So this is a reaffirmation that the Fed is worried about the downward revision in jobs growth and increase in the unemployment rate. Now, should you be happy with the rate cut? You know, everyone says that when rate cut happens, the stock market will propel higher. True, okay, but over the long term, not so good. Okay, the first rate cut on the 3rd of January 2001, S&P fell about 39% over the next 448 days, while the unemployment rate rose another 2.1%. Then we look at the rate cut during the global financial crisis. First rate cut, 18 September 2007, S&P fell about 54% in the next 372 days when the unemployment rate rose another 5.3%. And if you think that this two is just offshoot, okay, this is a chart that tells you what happened when there's a rate cut, okay, going back all the way to 1955. Peak interest rate, rate cut here, recession in gray bars, okay? So this is a proven historical data, okay? It has all happened after a recession will happen after the first rate cut. Now, of course, there are also opportunities, okay? But this doesn't mean that if this is proven, okay, after the first rate cut, normally the stock market will actually go up, okay? And that's why you have speculators say, oh, I'm waiting for the first rate cut. Once they do the first rate cut, and if the stock market go on for 1 or 2 weeks, then I will short using the short ETFs, okay, those lavish short ETFs. So, but then I think that if you are not a trader, you need to exercise caution because not many of us can sit in front of the computer monitoring the ebb and flow of the stock market tide. So better be prepared yourself. Okay, I believe that there is still opportunity for the S&P to move up higher before the first rate cut because it's driven by anticipation of the first rate cut. But I think after the first rate cut, there'll be a slightly downtrend. Probably by that time, people would think that there will be buy the deep buyers, okay, mostly retailers who say that, oh, you know, these mega caps have fallen, now's the time to buy. But actually by that time, a lot of the big funds have already unloaded. Okay, so the next cycle up will be the retail buyers who buy the dip. Okay, so be very careful. Okay, this chart is already telling you every interest rate cut will come with a full-blown recession. Okay, so another indicator for recession, and this is my recession watch. The yield inversion between the 10-year and 2-year treasury, okay, all the while has been negative for many months, and it just moved up to positive 0.1. Okay, so if we want to look at a wider picture, when it's negative, it moves up to 1. There is a slight window, okay, before recession. Okay, you can see that there's always a slight window before recession. Now, these are the trading opportunities that you can cash out before the recession bite. Okay, this is not stating that you should buy now, okay, unless you are a trader. But if you are a long-term investor, then you just need to sit tight and ride it out. Or as some other, if you are a believer of sound money, this is the time to look at buying hard currency like gold, okay? Because whenever there's a recession, there's only one thing that the central banks will do: print more money. Okay, if they print more money, then that means that inflation will go up, the value of the currency will drop further. And if we look at the incorporation of the Fed since 1913, more than 100 years of history, the purchasing power of the US dollar has dropped by close to 99%, 98.7% to be precise. So that means that the Fed, okay, is there to weaken, okay, and divert the wealth from the ordinary to the wealthy, okay. And if you look at the Gini coefficient chart, okay, there is a widening wealth gap between the wealthiest in the US and the middle class. Okay, middle class in US has shrunk, but the wealth from the top 10% or top 1% have only gone higher. So that is why the Fed is actually helping the rich get richer. Okay, not allowing the economy to grow to benefit the middle class. So what could happen in August? The CRE crisis is turning from bad to worse. Commercial buildings are being sold at higher discounts compared to earlier sales. A potential housing crisis. Due to an over-indebted household. Banks are in trouble, which is why the argument that a rate cut in September is imminent. Meanwhile, Buffett has been unloading Bank of America stocks. So economic data will be manipulated to support a rate cut. Although the possibility of a recession is high, the market will still be supported due to the increase in M2 money supply, where it has increased by 29 billion from June to July. So you can see that they are still putting money in, okay? That is why I say they will try to create a soft landing, but the more they try, the harder will be the landing. So the
The more
sell-off
hole
will
they dig.
yeah, precisely, okay? Right now, they not only dig a big hole, they also dig a bigger hole and deeper hole, okay?
Yeah.
So, you know, like US economy, Q2 GDP, the growth is actually 3%. While writing the book for next year, I actually did a research just to share with you. During the first half of this year, the US GDP increased by 600 over billion. But the government spending of deficit spending, which means they got no more money, but they still borrow and spend, yeah, is 700 over billion, close to 800 billion. So that means that every every cent that they send, every dollar that they spend on the deficit generated a much lower GDP. So that's why I'm saying bigger and deeper hole. So, but they will try to narrate it that it's going to be a soft landing, and they will throw a lot of money into it. Okay, so that is why I say if you are a trader, there's still some opportunity to trade. But if you are already bought, it's time to wait for the, before the going into September, maybe 2 weeks or so, maybe to take some profit. Okay. The Biden admin and Fed will likely stitch the gaping hole together to try to drive home the narrative that we are heading towards a soft landing. So September will give a false sense of progress on the economic front. Okay.
False sense of progress, like the gradual progress, the wind over
Yeah.
mountain.
So the thing is, progress can mean a lot of things, okay? Like
Ah,
progressing from bad to worse.
yeah, that's right. Gradual
Okay,
progress
so
from bad to worse.
yeah,
Correct.
don't look at progress, it's just going up, okay?
Mm.
So I think that's why we need to know, based on the 5 energy element, when we look at the trend, we must know which side of the progress is going. Yeah. So the much anticipated September cut and proposed launch of the BRICS unit in October will drive the price of precious metals higher. Okay. Most of the rate cuts have given gold to actually appreciate between uh, 30 to 40% if we base on previous data. Okay, that as soon as the rate cut is made over the next, I think, 12 months or so. And another thing to look at is Trump's sentencing in September could move markets. I think, okay, Trump has already amassed a lot of people who are, if you look at his rally, it's being filled, whereas the uh, Democratic Party rally, you hardly see that kind of crowd. So I think to stay into power, they may need to impose some harsh sentencing to prevent Trump from being eligible. And this could be very detrimental to the US. The markets would react strongly. And if, let's say, the sentencing is not severe, okay, then there won't be much move. Okay, it depends on the severity. So that is why if they really want to push Trump aside, they can impose a harsh sentencing. And if, let's say, that happens, I think the US market will be in turmoil. Okay, this is something that you need to be aware of. But what happened when the US market is in turmoil? That is when the funds will leave US market and move elsewhere, okay, probably to emerging markets. So that is why I think what Evelyn mentioned at the start of our conversation, she's saying that Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia, will be good, okay, over the next year. Then it could come with a combination of factors, okay.
Yeah, it will
One
be
is
both
that
for Malaysia and Singapore.
Yeah, one is that the US has already reached very high valuation, so it's just waiting for the right trigger to bring it down. And funds will never let money go to waste, okay, or just sitting there, they will just move money elsewhere. And that's why I think the funds will move to emerging market, especially to Southeast Asia, where valuation remains very attractive, okay, in terms of comparing to peers in the Western region, okay, even compared to Europe. And that could be a few triggers. One is Trump sentencing resulting in a market in turmoil. The other is the deteriorating economic situation in the US. Because just now we say CRE crisis, potential housing crisis, bank balance sheet are in trouble. You know, there's so many negatives, okay, that is just waiting for the right trigger. So this is something to observe. Okay, let's look at Europe. Europe area core CPI came in at 2.9% year on year in July, unchanged from June. UK core CPI came in at 3.3% year on year in July, down from 3.5% in June. Now, one of the key things I always notice that the CPI and core CPI in Europe is constantly being changed. Okay, probably because once the figures come in, they will actually make some adjustment. So Euro area retail sales came in at negative 0.3% year on year in June, down from 0.5% in May. UK retail sales came in at 0.5% year on year, up from negative 0.9% in June. However, if we consider net retail sales less inflation, both the Euro area and UK are negative at negative 3.2% year on year in the Euro area and negative 2.6% for UK in June. Okay. German manufacturing PMI came in at 42.1 in August versus 43.2 in July, while services PMI came in at 51.4 versus 53.1 a month ago. So you can see that German deindustrialization has never shown any improvement. Okay, it is a constant declining basis. And services PMI is also being hit, okay, down. And if let's say it goes below 50, it will be in contraction. France manufacturing came in at 42.1 in August versus 44 in July, while services PMI came in at 55 versus 50 a month ago. So I think partly because services economy could be driven by the Paris Olympics, whereas manufacturing, you can see that is trending down. UK manufacturing PMI came in at 52.5 in August versus 51.2 in July, while services PMI came in at 53.3 versus 52.5 a month ago. So UK is the one that is outperforming the other peers in Germany as well as in France. So this is the German business sentiment. And you can see that how it is on the way on the downtrend. And this is below the long-term average of all three components. Okay, that goes to show Germany's economy is really not going well. So what could happen to Europe in September? Germany and Poland have announced they could no longer support the war in Ukraine. The number of countries making similar announcements could increase as they battle the shortcomings in funding and a deterioration in their economic growth. More racial anti-immigrant and riots in Europe, and local citizens feel they are being marginalized. Now, Evelyn predicted some months ago that the more unrest there is, the more draconian or more authority will put into place. Okay, and we are seeing it right now. Okay, governments have become more draconian. Okay, especially in the UK. A 12-year-old boy with the UK flag during a rally, and he was arrested and put into prison. Okay, so a lot of people right now are being put into prison in UK because of just stating that they are patriots. Okay, and this is very disturbing. And probably we will see more of this in other cities. It's just that it's not being reported on the mainstream. This you can only see through Twitter feeds. Okay, the mainstream, they don't talk so much about it because they still serve the narrative of the government. So if you want to have any news outside, okay, you can watch alternative news channels run by individuals in the YouTube, or if you want a monthly update, you can actually visit our channel. Okay, so disagreement among EU countries pertaining to trade with China after a hefty hike in tariffs pertaining to Chinese EVs. could see retaliation from China. In fact, Germany is very against this because they are already losing market share in the automobile sector to the Chinese EVs. And if they continue to impose such tariff, then they are very afraid of how China can retaliate. And you can see that, in terms of smartphone sales, because of the US constant sanctions, people are so fed up. Okay. Huawei now has already reclaimed #1 in the smartphone place, and Apple has fallen to #5 position.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because they see no new in new
No new
so-called
innovation. Yeah. People
no
buy
new
Apple.
innovation.
Because
Yeah,
people buy Apple is because of innovation, and Steve Jobs
yes,
is the brains behind the innovation. Okay.
yes,
Yeah, I've done his birth chart before. You can refer to my YouTube. Why he's so innovative is also in his birth energy. Okay. So
yeah,
and also, yeah, in the West, we talk about human rights. So now a 12-year-old boy is also in prison. So I do not know that, what is the meaning of human rights and freedom
yeah,
of speech. Yeah, these are all very
yeah,
thin lines.
yeah. So then the thing is that the Apple have only satellite text. Huawei have come up with satellite communication,
Mm,
audio communication. Okay, and Apple just keep on increasing their memory bank, and maybe they say different color or that is slightly thinner, but there's
mm.
no new
In
something that is
major,
different.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
major
So
innovation. It's just that they expand on what they have. That's all.
yes, and that is very concerning, and that is why I think Apple will still have some die-hard lovers because they
Mm,
grow on the Steve Jobs popularity and so forth. But I read a report today that Apple is considering investing in OpenAI. Now, if Apple have so much money, why don't they start their own AI? Why they must invest in existing platform?
mm,
So that's one question. That means that Apple is choosing the easy way out. They have spent 3 billion hyping about building the Apple car, but Xiaomi already started building one.
mm,
I already have one. Okay, and they are going to launch the SUV Ultra next year. That Ultra is actually a race car. And they are doing all this, but Apple keep talking about it. Okay, and right now they say about investing in OpenAI. Can't they actually come up with their own AI platform? At least Meta or Facebook that spent, I think, to date more than 10 billion,
mm,
trying to trying to improve their AI. And that's why they say that Meta is the dark horse, okay, that can actually leapfrog a lot of people because Meta is very concentrated in improving its AI platform, okay, rather than trying to invest in others, little bit here, little bit there, but they are spending a lot to build their own platform.
mm,
And that is why I think AI would eventually lose out to other competitors unless they actually pull up their socks and start innovating again. So it seems to me like, the current batch of Apple is like, in order to keep the stock price up, they keep on throwing billions, okay, and billions into stock buyback.
mm,
The kind of billions that they throw in, they could have thrown into better innovation or better products in terms of utility, okay, and not on superficial. So quite disappointing actually if we look at the direction that Apple is doing.
mm,
So the other thing is that Europe's economy is hanging by the thread, could see further degradation as riot and violence take their toll on the economy. So this is not only from me. A lot of Europe analysts, they are saying that uh, they are very disappointed in how the whole European Union is turning into a circus actually. Okay, uh, promoting war with Russia as a foundation for peace. Okay, and you can never defeat Russia. Russia is such a big country. It has the world largest resource at 70 trillion dollars worth. And throughout history, Napoleon has tried it, Hitler have tried it, and what they, Russian has a phrase that say it's easy to come into Russia, but it's very difficult to get out.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
where military campaigns are concerned. Okay,
And
so
also China is also both they are partnering with Russia some more.
yeah, because they both know the
Yeah.
fall of one is the fall of another.
Mm.
Actually, there are way back some years ago, they are already planning how to balkanize Russia. So Ukraine was the stepping stone to create a sanctions that will destroy Russia. But no one thought that Russia can actually recover. Because if Russia economy is destroyed, they even have a plan work out, which part of Russia that will be balkanized into what cities, into what countries, and so forth. And if let's say that happens to Russia, China will be next. So that is why both of them are actually partnering, because they are now friends in need,
Mm.
and they are now extending that to Iran. Okay, because if Iran falls, then the underbelly of Russia would be exposed. And that is why you see the Eurasian integration, the BRICS, all these are actually part of a movement, okay, to protect against foreign infringement.
Mm.
So let's look at China. China's CPI came in at 0.5% year on year in July, up from 0.2% in June. Month on month, it rose 0.5% versus negative 0.2% a month ago. So inflation is picking up in China. Core CPI came in at 0.4% year on year in July, down from 0.6% in June. PPI came in at 0.8% year on year, negative 0.8% year on year in July, unchanged from June. So that's why China still have very low prices, okay, because the price to produce products is still coming down. And that is why China's high-tech manufacturing has played an important role, because high-tech manufacturing has allowed prices to come down. And a lot of people are saying China's economy is doomed because there's no inflation. Actually, the last thing that everyone needs, especially for the working class or for people like us, is higher inflation. Okay, especially for retirees. Okay, if we are no longer working,
Yeah.
why would we want to have inflation as an indicator for the economy? Okay, so better is lower prices. So the thing is that investment in high-tech manufacturing in China has resulted in lower price of products, because right now China's one of the integration of AI and robotics and high tech into manufacturing has allowed uh, the explosion of what we call dark factories, okay, which means factories that work on very low light, okay, and it's all powered by AI, robotics, and high precision sensors to allow the manufacturing to take place without a single human being. Perhaps maybe one or two in the control panel or to monitor, okay, certain thing, but definitely with a huge removal of human beings being on the job, and they can work 24/7. Okay, so the thing is that because of all this high-tech manufacturing, they are churning up products at a much faster pace. The bigger the production, the lower the cost, and producers can actually adjust the cost because there are tremendous savings. So that is why inflation in China is still very muted. But the thing is, when inflation in China is muted, the disposable income less inflation has only become higher. Okay, and that by itself should allow people to spend more. But people are not spending more because of the real estate. Now, in our coming book for next year, I actually did a short paragraph on China's real estate, and you will understand why. Okay, but just the gist of it is that the Chinese are heavily invested in the real estate over the past 20 or 20 plus years. And the fall in real estate prices have actually hit their home equity. Okay, and that is why when Chinese, the it's mostly in most Chinese is that when you see a loss in one area, you will not spend. Okay, so that you build up the similar amount, then only you start to spend. So I believe this psychology is still very prevalent in China, and that's why people only spend when they need to, and not
This is our
splurging.
culture. I think this
Yeah,
is from the Confucius, the Lao Tzu. All these
yeah,
are the teachings that has been
yes,
given to us. Even
yes.
we are also Chinese, I know by roots, some of us. So this is the philosophy.
Yeah, so that's why it's like uh balance the everything first, then you have extra, you have recovered from the loss, then only you start to spend more. And that's why the Chinese have very low debt, and US household has $17.8 trillion in debt. Okay, then you realize that the one economy is driven by production, the other is driven by debt, and that is the huge difference. So retail sales climbed 2.7% year on year in July, up from 2% in June. Industrial production went up 5.1% year on year in July, down from 5.3% in June. Now, also another thing, the Chinese government is scaling down its fixed asset investment. Okay, and that's why industrial production also fell. So service production went up 4.8% year on year in July, up from 4.8% in June. Fixed asset investment went up 3.6% year on year from January to July, down from 3.9% from January to June. Now, fixed asset investment, especially in infrastructure, have come down a bit, and many steel producers are voicing concern that they are losing money. So I think what China does sometimes is discipline companies here. When they realize that they have uh, gone too many companies, okay, uh, increasing production and all those, which is actually um, expecting the government to help them, then they will actually um, impose some discipline to make sure that don't expect the government to constantly be there. You must actually look after your own books. Okay, so because sometimes they feel that, oh, the government is building infrastructure, okay, let's produce more, okay, so that we can actually when there's an infrastructure project, then we will benefit. So in just as in the Chinese gene, I think some manufacturers are also gamblers. Okay, they anticipate a lot of positivity, but when that positivity um, does not come, then they start to voice concern. They want the government to do more. So that is why the Chinese government sometimes they discipline companies in such a manner. And I believe that the investment in infrastructure also partly because China has built up so many infrastructure. And the other thing is that they do not want to spend right now when the economy is still showing some uh, acceptable growth level. GDP is still at 5%. I think they could be concerned of the coming recession. So if let's say there's a coming recession and the government already spent so much, then it needs to dig even deeper to spend. So that's why they say, let's cool down a bit, okay, look at what's going to happen, then only we spend, and therefore then can keep the economy going. Okay, not that uh, need to continue to spend to exceed very, very high growth rate to attract investment, push up the stock prices. I think the Chinese government don't care about the stock market. Okay, they are more concerned about the well-being of the overall economy and let the stock market take care of itself in that sense. So um, if we look at it in the real estate, major cities saw home prices fall again in July compared to previous month, though the declines continue to narrow. New home prices in China first-tier cities, namely Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, fell 0.5% month on month, unchanged from the previous month. Those in the second tier cities fell 0.6% month-on-month, with the decrease narrowing by 1 percentage point from the previous month. Prices of second-hand homes in second tier and third tier cities both went down 0.8% month-on-month, with the decrease narrowing by 1 percentage point from the previous month. So there is a narrowing of the fall, but it's still falling. Now, if we look at from the time the stock market, from the property market start to fall, you'll be surprised to see that the chart will show a steep decline of around 30 or so percent, okay, over the last, I think, few years. So unemployment rate rose to 5.2% in July, up from 5% in June. Now, very interestingly, when this unemployment rate come out, of course, they have the 16 to 24-year-old data, which shows that the unemployment is 20%. You know, then you have the economists, the Financial Times, all coming out and say China, you know, is going to collapse for the 100th time. So actually, the July higher employment rate could be due to graduation period in June as new graduates come into the market in the following month. Okay, they are just starting to look for jobs, and that's it. Now, the 16 to 24-year-old, most of them are college students still. Okay, some of them graduate in when they are 23 years old or 24 years old, then they are only just coming up to the market. Other than that, I think China has literacy of 99%, close to that, close to 100% anyway. And most of them are actually students. And those students who work part-time are not included in the employment rate. Whereas in the US, according to the U3 data, every part-time worker is equal to one employed person. So if, let's say, one person work 3 part-time jobs, is equivalent to 3 working person. So you can see how different the data is being done. Okay. The other thing is that for those who are new here, some of you all, when you look at China's GDP, China's GDP is based on actual goods purchase. Those in the services like rental, like lawyer fee, medical fee, transportation fee, hotel fee, those are not included in the calculation of the GDP because these are services. They really stick to the gross domestic products. Okay, it must be a product, not a service. Okay, and the only service that is included in the calculation of the GDP is retail and F&B. F&B because they still sell food. Okay, food is a product. So that is why there's a huge discrepancy. Okay, whereas the US, lawyer fee, medical fee, insurance fee, stock market, legal fee, rent, transportation fee are all included in the calculation of the GDP. Okay, so that is why recently the World Bank come out and say that, you know, China's is underreporting its GDP. And if you want to match that, okay, later I'll show you the energy consumption. China's foreign trade hit a new high in the first 7 months of this year. Goods trade volume expanded 6.2% year-on-year in renminbi terms. Export rose 6.7%, while imports climbed 5.4%. In US dollar terms, the country foreign trade in goods stood at 3.5 trillion from January to July. Export reached 2.01 trillion, while imports hit 1.49 trillion. Trade surplus expanded by 7.9% to 518 billion. So China is collapsing because it has $500 billion in surpluses. Okay, so that's the mainstream media narrative. So now, one of the things that is happening in the real estate market is that they are finally doing something. Over 100 cities across China are now encouraging homeowners to swap their old properties for brand new ones with an additional payment. The housing trade-in scheme primarily involves government-designated agencies or real estate companies purchasing and replacing existing properties, often with subsidies to assist homeowners in selling their old homes and upgrading their new houses. So what happened is that a lot of the developers went bust and a lot of buildings are half completed. So what they do, they take over all this, and then they come up with a housing trade-in scheme. Now, this trade-in program supports a variety of options, including one for multiple, or multiple for one swaps. Now, this means that single pre-owned property can be exchanged for one or more new homes, and multiple pre-owned properties can be traded for a single new home, especially if they want to upgrade to a major city, where the price will be much higher. So it is stipulated that the total value of pre-owned properties must not exceed 60% of the new property price, with the remaining 40% to be paid either in cash or through financing options. So this is coming up with another scheme, okay, because they did a trade-in for electronics, for cars, and for other type of consumer goods, and it has been well received. So right now they are putting this trade-in scheme into the housing, okay? So one of the key things that why I say that China is underreporting its GDP, all you need to look at is the power consumption. Let's look at power generation first. Rose 2.5% year-on-year to 883 billion kilowatt hour. First 7 months combined power generation went up 4.8% compared to a year earlier. In July, China electricity consumption climbed 5.7% year-on-year to 939 billion kilowatt hour. Okay, now, if let's say power consumption is 5.7%, the GDP currently is at 5%. So obviously, power consumption is a better denominator, because that people consume power is a sign of economic activities. So specifically, power consumed by primary and secondary industry went up 1.5% and 5% year-on-year respectively. Tertiary industry consumption went up 7.8%, while residential power use registered 5.9% increase year-on-year. So the significance of higher increase in tertiary industries should be related to the continual rural revitalization. So this is a very high consumption rate for tertiary industries, and they are mostly located in third and fourth tier cities. So overall, power consumption continued to be above the benchmark GDP of 5%. Now, last time when we did the first half, okay, it was closer to, I think, 8%, okay? So it is still above the GDP. Now, let's look at China EV production. From January to July, China's auto production totaled 16.1 million units, up 3.4% year-on-year. Auto sales 16.3 million units, increase of 4.4%. NEV production climbed 5.91 million units, rising 28.8%. Sales of NEVs came in at 5.93 million units, up 31.1% year-on-year. So you can see that NEVs are gradually pushing out the ICEs. So NEVs accounted 36.4% of all domestic new car sales in the first 7 months. Some 708,000 NEVs were reported during the period, a year-on-year rise of 11.4%. So NEVs are different from the traditional EVs, okay, because the traditional EVs would include hybrid, also the plug-in hybrids. So that is why China wants to move them into the NEVs eventually, okay? Now, very interesting thing of what could happen in September in China. Now, there are reports which highlighted that an interest rate cut could result in an unwinding of 1.3 trillion funds back to China, prompting an inflows of funds of more than 9 trillion renminbi into the Chinese economy. Now, these funds are owned by Chinese companies, which they invested overseas, okay? So this has been the amount over the last few years due to the weakening of the renminbi. Some of them actually invested in the US, but a weakening of the US dollar would see a reversal of funds back to China, and that could push the renminbi higher. So hopefully that could actually push up the economic activities in China further, because 9 trillion moving back into the economy is a very huge amount. Now, continual destruction in the value of real estate in China has resulted in the population saving rather than spending. One such method to promote the conversion of their savings is into gold. Now, total deposit rose to a record high of 114 trillion renminbi or 20.2 trillion at the end of June 2024. Now, this is just my anticipation, okay? It's not a government policy, although the government now is strongly promoting gold as a savings. So as the price of gold increases, the value of gold assets will rise in tandem. This will offset the decline in the value of their real estate assets. That is why the government is actively promoting their citizens to buy physical gold. In doing so, it will help boost confidence and in the process drive spending. So they need to, because real estate value has dropped, now it's promoting them to buy physical gold. And physical gold in terms of renminbi has been going up. Overall, the real estate market will remain sluggish. The house trade-in program will take several quarters to see significant impact. Major economic indicators will still register growth, but will be lower as the global economy slows down. Because China is still exporting to the global economy, if let's say consumption in the US falls and the consumption in the Europe falls, then definitely the export economy will see some impact. And that's why China is not wasting its money to come up with, like the Western countries like to term a bazooka, okay, to nail down all the nails, okay, and push the economy to a hyper growth. So China is not going to do that, okay. They will observe and make targeted adjustment to their stimulus. But sectors such as AI, big data, robotics, high-tech manufacturing, and the low-altitude economy will continue to do well. Especially recently, China has come up with certain policy papers, okay, about the new low-altitude altitude economy, about AI and big data. There was an interesting report that was out talking about how China wants to about the size of the China's big data economy and data center economy. So China is constantly churning out all these papers. Sometimes it's worth, most of them are worth a read. And if you want to find out more about all this, please visit Xinhua.net. Okay, there's an English version under the business category. So the other thing is global finance. Now, the yen carry trade is far from over. According to Deutsche Bank, the yen carry trade amounts to a whopping 20 trillion or 505% of Japanese GDP based on Japanese government balance sheet assets and liability mix. The conundrum that the BOJ is facing is the potential for the yen to appreciate even more if the Fed cuts interest rate. That could spark another wave of unwinding of the yen carry trade. BOJ may opt for inflation rather than seeing the banks fail, so more JGB or Japanese government bonds purchases are likely. So right now it has somewhat stabilized, but like I say, a lot of central banks actually help in doing the plumbing works. But if the yen depreciate, that means if the US dollar appreciate, that means that the yen will appreciate, and that could see a second wave. So there's a lot of things moving in September that you need to look at. Now, in terms of geopolitics, Russia has ruled out any negotiations with Ukraine after the latter's attack on Kursk. Russia has intensified bombings on key Ukraine military and infrastructure sites. Its troops are gaining grounds across Ukraine, while the expeditionary force in Kursk is choked off. Middle Eastern tension will likely escalate. US has 2 carrier fleets in the region. Iran will strengthen its defenses first before any attacks. Another powder keg is actually in the making between India and Bangladesh. South China Sea tension could rise after the lull in August was broken. So and I think recently an admiral in a news conference say the US is ready to escort Philippines Navy in their supply trip. So let's see uh, uh, how that would eventually show out, okay, in the South China Sea. And according to TASS, BRICS nations have decided to take a pause in terms of admitting new members, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said.
So before I go to the summary, for those that are interested in the annual analysis, I think some of you have done the annual analysis together with me for your birth chart, what to expect next year. Discover what 2025 has in store for you. So I already open up now slightly earlier so that you can get a head start towards the next year and get a glimpse of what the year has to offer for you, where I put in your birth chart analysis, the theme of the whole year, and also I break it down month by month analysis on your energy, your planning, and also what is the forecast will be for that month. So this is a special early bird price, which is 218. And if you have one or more friends together, both of y'all, is I will give further discount at 188 for each of you all. The normal price is actually 299. So if 5 pages of report altogether and 40 minutes to 1 hour, normally if you know those that have done the forecast or the reading with me, the analysis with me is actually more than 40 minutes. It's always 1 hour. And a lot of people also ask questions, which if I know, I will try to answer. Okay, so these are the link. Later on, I will give you the link on where to enroll. Okay, and if you are interested in also life energy reading, that means those who have not done destiny reading with anyone else, you want to do it, is an investment once a lifetime to understand your destiny reading, to understand your strength, your weakness, and what are the journey in life, and what are the opportunity and threats that awaits for you. Okay, in your life, especially in your luck cycle, and also what are the best action plan, to mitigate the risk and also to capitalize on the opportunity that comes to us, because every one of us have opportunities and also threats. Even me myself also is the same thing. Okay, then actually the life energy analysis is actually 3737, and then the 2025 annual analysis is 218. So total worth is 955. So for this period of the time, I would you can have both life energy and 2025 at 499, or you can just have the year analysis if you want to know your 2025 what it has in store for you is 218. And if you have one friend that comes, friends and friends, at least one friends, the more the merrier, is at 189 if you are interested. So I will drop the link later on. And then for 20, we are, as both just now PC and I state, that next month, that's our intention. Okay, so depends on how we always do things very thoroughly, and especially PC also. He looks at all the research. If we are ready to release the book, it will be next month. I think so. Hopefully by end of September.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay. So on because we do not want to rush things. Anyway, that's why I also start very early, and sometimes there are new data points. I will put it in as well. So we already start writing the book actually since in August itself. That's how early that we really prepare for next year. Okay, so this is the book that we will have. But it will be in ebook format. Hopefully, I intend to put it in either Google Books and also Apple Store, and besides the normal platform that is Lulu. Okay, so in terms of summary, we will talk about the gradual wind of change in political shift. So the wind of change will be either the progress from bad to worse, or from um, good to better. It can be either way, as we already stated. Okay, so military activities in Middle East will gradually escalate. The East and West tension will also slowly soar as well. Okay, and also look up for the prices in the precious metal. So over to you, PC.
Yeah, so the summary basically is we can see September unleashing potential conflicts on several fronts, as I mentioned just now. And there will be uh, anti-activities in Europe, okay? Um, Southeast Asia and China economies will continue to progress steadily. I think recent GDP data on Malaysia has been very positive. And I think the continuation of the rollout, okay, of the BRI across Southeast Asia will actually help deepen not only economic ties, but improve economic activities. So just like when the first rail into Laos was laid, a lot of criticism that there is not going to be enough activity to support such a lavish project. But right now, you know, the amount of people traveling on that rail to Laos from Kunming, China, you know, has been many times multiple and steady access of goods and movement of goods from both directions. And another thing need to beware is the yen carry trade when the Fed cuts interest rate. And there will be a resumption on the gold bullish trend, mainly because it's driven by interest rate cut and also the announcement of the 40% gold back unit in the BRICS summit in October. So right now, even the central banks are heavily buying gold. Um, Despite, you know, they are not going to predict where the price of gold is going, but definitely they know that gold is the last line of defense against any kind of disruption. Central banks have been the active buyer in gold throughout this year, and they are the only source that is supporting the gold price. Investors in gold has not even started to move up, especially in the US. Investors in exposure of gold in the US, if I'm not wrong, is actually about 0.5% or slightly more than 0.5%. But during the 1970s, the investors' exposure to gold is actually 4%, which propelled gold to go up by 26 times. So you can imagine that right now is less than 1%, between 0.5 to 1%, and should it move to 4%, you know, the kind of impact it can make on the gold price. And on top of that, you know, previously during the last gold rally, in the 1970s gold rally, the central banks were the sellers, okay? The investors were the retail investors were the buyers. But right now, the initial leg to support gold is driven by central banks. And as I mentioned, you know, China has $20 trillion in savings. Government is trying to encourage them to move out of their currency into gold. And if let's say significant amount of that 20 trillion move into gold, then we have another huge potential for gold to move up. Now, gold was disallowed to be owned by the public in China in the 1970s. Okay, only in the early 2000s that China opened the gold market for its citizens. So that's going to be a huge difference. Ultimately, I think the central banks would need to revalue gold, okay, to clear the balance sheet of debt. Basically, in recent interviews, several central bank governors from Europe are already sounding that they see gold as an important asset to revalue uh, for revaluation. And not only that, the BIS is into the Enbridge and um, into the discussion, okay, in the BRICS, also involved in the BRICS uh, currency, if I'm not wrong. Okay, but definitely they are part of they actually have involvement in the Enbridge. So the BIS is actually the Bank of International Settlement, and they are getting involved in the Ambridge because they do not want to lose their authority and also involvement with the global financial market. Now, the BIS made gold into a tier one asset a few years ago, and that itself is telling that where they see gold into the future. Okay, so
Yeah. I also tell members that what will be the ceiling price of gold for the current times in the Telegram channel earlier. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so any questions from the floor? I think we have one that PC has already answered from Steve. Steve Fu on the interest rate cut in September. Possibly, is it the market will not go bearish instead of bullish?
可以帮助到我们去更好的去保护、修复和启动我们的这个细胞咯。里面的四大成分呢，主要是有 ionic
Oh,
gas、
who is that?
and
Okay, hold on for a while. Let me mute the mic.
那的话呢，它是65种的这个微量元素，可以提供我们身体营养的。
Who okay. Can you see who is not in mute?
Yeah, I already those that I already muted.
Yeah, next time I think I will better set it up. I think this time I've forgotten to do so. Okay.
Yeah.
So any other questions from the floor?
And another thing is that Warren Buffett is building an obscene amount of cash here. I think, right? I think the last I read is close to $200 billion in cash. He's been disposing stocks everywhere.
That's what I've seen also.
Yeah, so that is also telling that, normally it's the retail investors that are caught holding the bag now, and that is why because we tend to thrive on hope, okay, after seeing other people other investors the fund, especially the fund managers raking in the kind of gains. So that's why we need to be a bit more careful.
Yeah, especially retail investors, they're ignorant or their source of information are wrong, or either they follow a lot of so-called gurus that have given them false hope. I think that is a lot in the market now, right, PC?
If let's say, of course, some of them would say that it doesn't matter. The S&P has gone up over how many decades? Okay, it has already gone up how many tens of thousands of percentage. Yes, provided that that you have the holding power, you can average down, and then when it go lower, you can buy again, and then you can buy on the way up. So unless you have that kind of funds, but most retail investors do not have, so need to be a bit more sensitive, okay, to the direction of where you want to place your money in. If you have the amount of funds, yes, you can be you can average down, okay, and then ride on the next level. But if you look at it, taking the benchmark of year 2000, where central banks, where the Fed becomes an earnest participant in printing money through monetary easing policy, 2000 is a good start. And if we look at how gold has appreciated in terms of price, since year 2000, it actually outperforms the Dow and the S&P. I think it only underperformed the Nasdaq. Okay, but gold is something that is very reliable. Okay, it has been money for a few thousand years. So and the most important thing is that central banks own it. Okay.
Yeah, we have already tell people to buy gold since 2 years ago. We started this platform. Those that have followed us, listened to us, I think you would be very happy now. Be careful of what is going on. And also, I know that there's a lot of investment guru now in the internet. So it also depends on whether, your own life's energy's frequency, is it low or high, or you can get attracted to which, type of people. Okay, to listen to which type of people. So this all has to do with your own self as well. So we have to be aware, on purpose, go and seek the right information. Yeah, we have another question from